Welcome back to another edition of Real Spiritual Talk Radio. I'm your host, Lamont Gates, bringing you the world of faith, metaphysicality, and spirituality. Today, my guest suffered a life-changing brain injury that led to his near-death experience and expanded worldview. Joining me today, ladies and gentlemen, is near-death experiencer Mr. Landon Dennis. Landon, welcome to Real Spiritual Talk Radio.
Thank you so much, Lamont. I appreciate you allowing me to be on your platform and share my experience.
Absolutely, Landon. No problem at all. Now, Landon, I know you want to go into something before we start the interview, which actually leads to my first question. So I'm going to allow you to take it away for now.
Okay, thank you so much, Lamont. Yeah, I like to pray before and like to give thanks to our God and our Creator and invite my loved ones to help me through situations in life. So that's why I pray, and I appreciate you giving me that opportunity. So, our dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing me to be here on the Mott's program today to share my story and be able to reach people who I've hoped to reach with the messages and the things that I've learned with my experiences in life and the things that I learned from my near death experience. Please help me to share it the best way I can and that others can get what they need to out of it. And again, thank you for my ability to be here today and my ability to be alive and speak with others. Please help me to help people on this earth. Thank you again for everything. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. And with that said, let's go into the very first question, which revolves around faith. Prior to having your near-death experience, was there any religious or spiritual beliefs you held?
So I was raised LDS. Most people Mormon, um, but I was raised that way. My parents were amazing, amazing people. Um, Taught us to be honest, trustworthy, hardworking. We go to church and honor our Creator. Um, so I grew up LDS and Mormon, and I was baptized at 8, and that was my religious teachings growing up. I can't say that I necessarily myself at a young age had a belief, but I am very grateful I was taught those things now that I'm at an older age. I realize the importance of, even if there's not understanding, the teaching behind it. And I'm so grateful for my parents for that. But I also fell away from the church, and there was points in my life where I didn't I didn't know if there was a God that loved me or not.
So let's go into it. What was it that actually triggered your near-death experience to occur? I know there was a pathway you took, as you just stated, that had something to do with it.
Yeah. So um I started getting into drugs, alcohol, all that around the age of 18, some harder drugs later. Um, and I am just a magnet for accidents. I'll tell you what, I've been hit by 3 cars, walking and bicycling. I've fallen off a roof onto a car from overdosing. I was up on a slanted roof, overdosed, and rolled off the roof onto a car. Spent a lot of time in the hospital there. But um, what happened is I continued to use drugs. And one day I remember I went to this guy's house and I I bought drugs. And I won't get too into it, but it was some hardcore ones, the ones that kill people. And I put all 3 of them together, and I was an IV user, and I did that, and I overdosed. Had some kind of seizure from what I was told, and I when I went to his house, it was on a Vespa that I just bought. So I hopped on my little Vespa after overdosing somehow, and I don't remember any. I just remember going to do the shot, and I'll let you know later in the story where I come back to in my experience, because during this time I I don't know what was going on, but yeah, I died or overdosed, and they were like had to Narcan me all this stuff. All of a sudden, I get up on my Vespa and take off down the road because I live about 4 minutes away, and I'm going down the road and I get hit by a car on my Vespa. and crack my head just a lot more. Um, Before police and paramedics and anybody could come, I somehow got up, jumped on my Vespa, and rode it down the blocks and made it home. And there was just blood all over my Vespa later when my family came to see it. But I got home and I went up on or in the bathroom because my wife was home and I didn't want to do the drugs in front of her. So I went into a bathroom, got up onto a counter and sat Indian style. And at this point, I had no veins. I was an IV user, so I put it in my neck, the needle, and did it. And that's like fell back and cracked my head, I guess, because my wife came in and the needle was still there, and there was just a puddle of blood on the bathroom floor from my head again. And it was swollen up like a balloon here. I mean, cracked from it's. So she called the paramedics and everybody. They rush over, they see how bad this is, and so they throw me in an ambulance and they're hauling down the road. And this is where I come back to. So remember, I went to the house, did the drugs, first overdose, and up until I'm in the ambulance, everything I told you is what's been told to me actually happened because I don't remember any of it. But when I'm in the ambulance is when, um, so I'm above the ambulance and I remember looking down and seeing my body and just wondering. I mean, I was in such a horrible state and feeling like depression, anxiety, sadness, sorrow, grief, not physical, but emotional, and that's way worse than physical. I'll tell you that. Wherever I was, I'd rather be in the physical pain that I was in the ambulance than in that whatever emotional, spiritual pain outside the ambulance. And I just remember looking down and seeing my body and wondering what is this? Why do I feel this way? Why am I looking at myself? Why are these people working on me? And do I why am I cut open everywhere? And it was very intense. And as I'm sitting there watching all this and feeling these emotions, I remember I could see through the ambulance. It was almost like the ambulance was transparent, but I could see through it. I could see me, but I knew I was above the ambulance, and I knew they were hauling. They were, I don't know, I'd say on a little, little town around houses. We were probably going like 65, 70 down like normal streets. And but the reason I say that is because it's weird. When I was above the ambulance, I remember not having the feeling of moving, but I knew I was moving with the ambulance. Almost like I could see it, but I I don't know how to describe it. I didn't have the sensation of moving with the ambulance, even though I knew we were. And as I'm sitting here just terrified, wondering what's going on, why am I looking at my body? Am I stuck in this state for the rest of my life? Like, oh, it makes my heart start going so fast just talking about it. But all of a sudden, just boom, instantly. And when I tell the story, I've heard other people say there was white tunnels of light or anything like that, and I believe them because it's hard for me to tell my story, and I was afraid people wouldn't believe, but I didn't experience that white tunnel of light. I was just instantly in a grass field. Uh, beautiful grass. And I haven't explained this a lot to a lot of people, so I'm still, when I do, trying to figure out the right words for certain things. Um, and anyways, I'm in this other place, this green field, beautiful green field, and it was big. Um, the grass was green, and the grass loved me. And when I say that, I know it sounds crazy, but there's no other words for it. That's the closest I can get. Is the grass loved me, and each individual blade of grass did. Even though there was an entire huge field, I could see each individual blade, and each individual blade loved me. And that's the best I can describe it. I don't. The feeling was just incredible. I mean, going from above the ambulance to being in this field where I felt loved by grass was like, whoa, what? It was very intense, but I wasn't confused at the same time. Like when I was above the ambulance, I was very confused and scared and desperate. But it here, even though I was being overwhelmed with this sight, this smell, this sound, this touch, the colors, it was I it, like it would be overwhelming here on Earth, but there it just made sense in a way. But when I think back on it here, I'm like, how the heck did I not freak out over it? Like that was all a lot of intense stuff coming at once. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just looking over this field and there's a big hill in the background. And the way I describe it, I'd say about a quarter mile away. Um, and behind this hill were these bright, beautiful. I, it's hard to describe the colors, but just think of a rainbow and then shine it through like a diamond, how it refracts. And I've never explained it that way. That just came to my head actually, but that is a very good explanation actually. Imagine taking a big spotlight and laying on the ground and shining it up in the air, but then putting a diamond on it that will refract all those colors out. The really cool thing about this Lamont was that I I knew some of those colors were some of my family members, and it was so cool to feel that. And I don't know why I only felt my grandpa and my niece that passed away in a car accident when she was 16. She was like this purplish looking one. My grandpa was like this reddish looking one. And again, when I say red, that's the closest I got to it. But and they were sending me love, man, and I hadn't I hadn't seen or spoke from either of them in so many years since they had died, so many years, and it was so overwhelming at first to feel that, not just hear them, but to feel them again. And I wanted to go over there because there was a lot more colors coming out, and I don't all I know is those two colors are who I felt. I don't know what the other colors are right now. Um, but I wanted to go over there, and that's when I felt this loving presence just behind me, like to my right, and I would say like 2 feet away. Um, and so I turned, and that's when I saw her. I didn't see her at first. I felt her, and when I saw her, it was again just the most overwhelmingly peaceful feeling that I can describe. And she just had this peaceful smile on her face when I turned. And I wanted to go back and see my grandpa and my niece, and I wanted to go back there. And she started speaking to me and explaining things to me that were not used through words. Her her lips stayed zip the whole time, and she started. And I say speaking, it's the best way I can describe it. But imagine being in one of those, I guess, movie theaters or at the Universal Studio or something where the seats move, you have the noises, that you feel that sometimes they have the air blast that'll hit you like during certain, like that all immersive thing. And it's like every word she said with that was an all immersive boom all at once. And this is the way I describe it is that if she said the word fire to me, instantly it would feel like I was holding my hand out over fire, or I could feel the warmth. I could see the glow of it. I could hear the crackling of the firewood. I could smell the smell. And she didn't say fire, but that's just I'm saying if she was to, that's the best way I can describe this just blast of emotion right when she says it. And I I still I'm very early in sharing my story with all of this, and I was told so many personal things up there and shared so many incredible things that I try to think of when's the right time to share certain things with certain people. And it's been 2 years, and I just barely told my family about this a few months ago. That's how scared of ridicule I was. even though I know the truth. I know this was real experience that happened. Um, and that was another thing real quick that when I was in the ambulance, they had to do this like bone drill thing through my knee and a vein in the knee bone, like in the marrow. And it's like one of the most painful things, but I don't remember it, thank goodness. But I remember seeing that. And when I was back at the hospital later on weeks after the surgery and they saved my life, I remember seeing that. I remember asking people about that and what that was, and they were confused because I was flatlined on the way to the hospital. I died quite a few times, but and again, I'm sorry, Lamont, I just got off there because I remembered that part that verifies that what I saw is what I saw. It wasn't just a release of DMT and all this stuff. I saw things that I shouldn't have been able to know about that was happening. But so I apologize. But when I'm in this green field and she's speaking to me, she's telling me many personal things, many things that no one could have known, and the way she was describing it to me was not that it was her. It was God granting her to be at that place with me there at that time and sharing information to share with me. So it's like it wasn't her that just knew all this, but she was given the permission to come share these things with me about past events in my life that I know now. Now I know that only God knows, but He is able to send people to help you at certain points in your life. And she was there she was there sharing these things with me that no one could have known. And as she's doing this, another presence I feel. Again, just a little, and it's weird how I don't see him at first. I feel them, and I look and I see them, and they're just a beautiful woman, handsome man. I would say early 30s, there around 30, and he started communicating with me. And the cool thing about these two communicating with me is that I know I'm related to him somehow. I I I never asked. I wish I did. It haunts me to this day that I never asked, but there was so much going on in that moment. But I knew I was related to him. I don't know how. And over time, as I've thought more about it and tried to process this experience more, I've thought, it's either a past ancestor that that is here to help you. People call spirit guides, angels. God uses everything. God wastes nothing. And I know I was related to her. She is either a past ancestor, a future relative, and I shared this one time, maybe even my daughter. That thought has popped into my mind a few times, and that's a weird, intense thought to think about. Um, and they shared so many things with me, Lamont, and the biggest thing that they shared with me was the power of prayer. And that's the reason I'm doing these podcasts now, because I've been quiet about it for so long. I've been scared of ridicule. I've been scared to share it with even my family. Oh, the only people that knew about it for a while was like my wife and a couple of close friends, and even then they only knew small parts. But I want to share the message of prayer that they shared with me, with everybody. And it, like I've said before, this is not a religious thing. If you are a human being and you are alive with a spirit in you, then the power of prayer is yours to have if you choose to use it. And it is a one-way communication directly faster than the speed of light with our creator. And I love that I now know that our creator and God allows our loved ones, past or future, to be angels, to be helpers with us through our experiences. But you need to ask. There's times that they will still be there for you, but you have agency on this earth. You are here to learn. You you you're here to learn sorrow so that you can experience joy. You are here to have hardships so that you can have lasting good relationships and empathy for people. But prayer is it's so powerful, and I saw those times that prayer was working, and I physically saw them while I was in this realm, or while I was in. I don't know where it was in that grass field or what to call it, so I just call them realms. Um, but I was there, and they were showing me um, experiences in my life. And oh, this is another thing. I was watching your podcast of the lady you had before, and you had told her you love hearing about life experiences. And when I heard that, I was like, man, I wonder why I didn't get a life review or whatever that was. And I never thought about until 5 minutes before we hopped on this phone. That's why when you first texted, I said 1 second because it popped into my head after so many years that I kind of had a life review, but in a different way that other people explained because they were showing me all the times that the prayers from my family members on this earth, especially my parents, my poor parents, because I was a drug addict, I was running amok. People were terrified I was gonna die all the time, rightly so, and their prayers, I saw those in moments that I was shown just kind of like I described, almost like watching a movie, but it's all immersive again, and I gotta see those moments in front of me, and it's hard to describe because I felt them again. What I felt in those moments, I felt that pain, that that sadness, and the coolest thing is that I saw the prayers come, and boom, I saw and I call them dark, wispy things. The ones I've seen in real life, I call shadow people. But in this, I'll call it a vision. Whatever they were showing me, I saw these things flee and these prayers come down. What happened is I'm talking to them, and I get this one last "I love you" from those lights. And the way I describe it is, it wasn't just an "I love you." I felt the biggest loving hug of my life from them, and there wasn't any really goodbyes. It was just that, and all of a sudden, boom! I was back above my body again. And this is where this is where trying to remember that when I talk about this stuff and remembering what I saw and stuff and felt really gets to me. But I'm back above I'm back above my body, and they're doing brain surgery on me, and that's an intense thing to see. And like I said, if you want to share some of the pictures after my surgery, I can send you. It shows that I mean I got cut from here all the way up around my head to here, and then up and down this way, and opened up, and 4 titanium plates and stents put in, and all this. And I'm watching part of this above my body, above my body. Yeah, man, that was intense, and all those bad feelings came back instantly. The grief, pain, stress, sadness, everything that sucks was right back there. And as I'm watching this, it felt like I almost was gonna explode. Is the best way I can describe it. I couldn't take what I was seeing and feeling anymore. And and there's it's hard to tell this story because there's parts of it that are on different timelines with people leading up to the hospital that I don't know the exact timelines from where I was or how time worked being up where I was, but what pulled me out of that, I remember hearing this lady's voice, and she just said, Landon, it's time. Landon, it's time. And it was that lady, that young, beautiful lady up there that I could be my daughter, that it was her voice that pulled me out of it. And I remember seeing just these black, again, wispy things just flee out of the room. And that's when I came to. I remember opening my eyes, and this is days after the surgery, and that's why I mean I don't know how time works where I was. I don't know how long that. I'll call it a life review now. I guess is in a way is what that was, how long that lasted. But I know that about 3 days after my surgery, and I was kind of in this little medically induced coma type thing because my brain's swelling. But somewhere around 3 days, I came to, and I saw my family there for the first time. And after a few weeks in the neuro ICU, because I was in there for over a month and a half, the neuro ICU, my mom was talking to me, and I was just kind of explaining to her how, without without explaining everything to her, because again, it just happened. I didn't have explanation for those black things leaving my room when I like came back, and she was explaining to me that when you first came out of your surgery, they didn't know if you were going to live. They said, we're just trying to keep them 24 hours is what we're hoping on. We're just going to focus on 24 hours. And I guess when I first came out of that surgery a few days later, the first thing I said was, get my dad. I need a priesthood blessing. And that is a spiritual blessing in the church, the Mormon church, LDS church. And when he did that, I figured out later by piecing together the timeline, when I came to out of that state above my body, just watching that stuff, is when he gave me that blessing. And I didn't see him give me that blessing. Like I said, I just saw wispy things all of a sudden disappear, and I heard that voice land in its time. And that was a really cool thing to find out later, to know to validate what I saw and how it happened.
The experience when you speak about it seems to be very therapeutic, I guess you can say, for yourself and for those who are hearing this, and those who need to hear it, put it that way. Now, I want to go back because I just want a little bit of clarity from the very beginning before you had your near-death experience. Did you say you OD'd at someone's house, or Narcan, went towards down the street, was hit by a car, but somehow made it back home, did an injection, and that's when you fell back and hit your head?
Yeah.
Wow,
It's
that's
not, I mean, it's funny now that I can look back on it and I'm clean and sober, but and the crazy thing is I didn't learn about all that until after a few weeks in the hospital, when I got brought a police report and saw the medical report, and all the doctors were like, how the heck did how does someone do that?
yeah,
I
yeah,
told
all
them.
that without a stunt double, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it,
No.
it trust me, I was blown away too when I read all the reports after. I was like, oh my gosh.
You then say that after the injection is when you were brought into an ambulance, and that's when you had your out of body experience, or what we can call commonly an
Yeah.
out of body experience, because you were above the ambulance. Yet at this point in
Oh.
time, you were feeling, as you stated, emotionally dark. You had a lot of feelings that were over you that just weren't pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in time, you stated that you went into a field of grass, perhaps some
Mm-hmm.
sort of park of some sort, and it was instantaneous rather than going through a tunnel and coming through light. You said there that the nature itself emanated love towards you. Did you realize at this point in time that you were dead?
No, I did not. And honestly, I almost at that time forgot about where I had just been. And so I no, I didn't have an idea. It was just purely overwhelming to just all of a sudden be what I would call just pure love and no judgment in a place of just peace, of no judgment and love, no matter what you've experienced in life. It was wonderful.
And then you say that there were these massive hills around you, and in the background there were these ascending lights. They were very unearthly. They were colors, actually, and these colors are colors that you've probably never seen in any spectrum here on Earth, yet they reflected somehow deceased relatives of yours. Many near-death experiencers talk about seeing deceased relatives, but in this case, you saw them in forms of colors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like a bunch of hills or mountains. It was just the one big hill in the background. It was almost like a rainbow looking hill. Not colored wise, but I mean just arched, a big arched hill.
And it was there at this point you said you felt what was like a female presence with you, and
Yeah.
the presence, you believe it could have been a relative as well. Many near-death experiencers, when they feel presence, when they feel a presence or see someone, and they have a communication with the person, it's usually someone that they knew, someone very close to them, like a relative. And you stated that this entity was speaking to you in a telepathic form. In other words, there was no word transfer. It was almost emotion to emotion. When she spoke, you could kind of see and feel the actual message coming into your view.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. See, smell, feel, touch, hear. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was intense.
yeah. Now you describe this entity telling you a bunch of things. I guess what they were telling you centered around prayer, was it?
Yeah.
The power
That's
of
that's the
prayer.
biggest thing that I want to share with people out of my experience is prayer.
You also,
Prayer and
yeah.
that families can be together forever, Lamont. That's the other big one. Families, people, I don't believe in reincarnation, in the sense of coming back in different bodies, living different experiences with other people. I believe that we do progress after this life, and that we are with our families. They can be together forever. I mean, everybody has their choice of where they're going to choose to go after this life, but families can be together forever, and continue to progress. You know, if you've lost a child, a loved one, a mother, father, sister, brother, daughter, I don't like the thought of reincarnation, because all the love you have for that family member that may have passed away, I don't want to think that I'm either not going to see them again, or that maybe by the time I pass away, they're somewhere on the other side of the world living with another family and husband. And, that's just not, I don't want to believe, I choose to believe that this creation and our family bonds and our love that we have here for people means so much.
You stated also that there was another male presence that was there that you also believed was a family member. And you also said something very profound, and I love this. You said, we are here to know sorrow in order to know joy. Many near-death experiencers talk about that. They even say that, you know, one of the reasons why we're here is to experience, a wide array of experiences, which can lead from happiness to joy to sadness to, just about anything you can feel on planet Earth, because you can't know one without the other, as you stated, the yin and the yang. You
Yeah.
mentioned, yeah, you mentioned also that while you were in the ambulance, and I like how you went back to this, you said that you saw them drilling something into your knee, and you didn't feel a thing. And when you finally came back into your body, which you were watching your own surgery as you were over your body as you were coming back, you said to them, "Hey, I saw you were drilling something into my knee," and they confirmed that. We refer to that as a veridical near-death experience, whereas you can see something on the other side, come back, tell them, and they verified it that it was true. As you stated, it can't be the work of the brain at that point because what you saw actually did happen in real time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, it was a few days after waking up finally from that surgery that I asked that question about what was going on with my knee. If I had a head injury, why were they drilling into my knee? And they're like, "What? How? What?"
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. Now, many near-death experiencers come back with what we call after effects. They may have have higher levels of empathy. They may have a lack of fear of death. They may come back with some precognitions, premonitions, etc. Did you come back with anything different about you after having your near-death experience?
Yeah. Yeah, very, very much so. And it's one that I still don't share. I don't share it with family or friends really, but I'll share it on that platform. But I see auras around people. Not all the time, and it's like it's rare that I see auras, I'll say that. But they're different colors and around random people, throughout the day, or maybe not that day, but then some days there's a lot more. And what's crazy is I work at a gas station right now. I'm a gas station clerk, right off the freeway. And so I get a lot of different people traveling up from California all across the country. And since I've worked at this gas station, I've seen a lot more auras around people, because I'm assuming it's because I'm able to see a lot more people throughout, traveling throughout the country. And it's I don't know the meaning of that. I see the auras. I'm not sure why they're different colors, but I just never say anything to anybody because it sounds nuts. And so even if someone with the aura will be talking to me, and one thing I've noticed too is if that happens, I don't know the word for it, but whatever they might be feeling at that time, I for some reason start start feeling pretty bad. I don't, it's weird. I'm much more emotional since this accident. I mean, so I see the auras. I am much more attuned to what others are feeling, I believe, is what I've tried to come to the conclusion of, because I don't know how else to explain it.
So we started the conversation off with the religious question, and you stated that you were a Mormon prior to having your near-death experience, and that you still are now a Mormon after your near-death experience. My question to you is, have you communicated your experience to any of your Mormon church members or any of your Mormon religious leaders? And if so, what was their take on it?
So other people of my faith, one, and I didn't know how people of my faith might take this, because it goes with my faith, but how do I say that to them, that it literally happened to me and I saw these things? And so yes, I've told people, and it's I'm so happy I've opened up about all this, even to people I was scared of, because so many people are searching for light, I guess I'll say, instead of dark, for hope instead of fear. Um, and I'm trying to come out of my shell on this story and share it, because I believe it happened for a reason. I believe it can help people, and I'm sorry if I don't explain it the best way, but even with, yes, my religion, so many people agree with what the story I've told and shared, and they believe me, and that's been a really really cool thing.
Wow. Excellent points you've made. And Landon, I want to thank you for coming on Real Spiritual Talk Radio today and sharing with us that absolutely fascinating account.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope the people that needed to hear something that I said can get something out of it and have hope. And thank you for having me, and I hope you guys, everybody out there that listens to this, keep the hope, keep the faith, and know that your loved ones, past or future, are watching over you.
No problem at all. Ladies and gentlemen, Landon Dennis.
Thank you so much.